Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be Well and Thrive. My name is Bill Rankus with Movement First Physical Therapy, and I am joined today by the wonderful Monica Richardson, who is the founder and executive director of Triangle Area Parent Support Group, TAPS for short, which is a non-for-profit support group for new parents, parents going through new experiences, as well as continued support for parents to deal with all the things that parents deal with, which if you're a parent, you understand and can relate. So Monica, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy, you have your family yourself, you have your busy TAPS programs to take care of and fundraisers that you are running. If you don't mind introducing yourself a little bit, explaining a little bit about what brought you to TAPS, Triangle Area Parent Support Group, and I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the podcast today. I am just thrilled to be here. Thrilled to take a break from the busy, run of the mill and chat with you for a little bit. So, let's see. So the story is actually kind of a long story. In my previous career was as a high school social studies teacher. I taught high school social studies, world history, U.S. history, and gym. I taught gym class. Yeah, for a couple of years. And then when we became pregnant with our first child, it was kind of the middle of the recession, and I already knew that I wanted to stop teaching when I had the baby. And the company that my husband worked for had this reduction in force, and so we were given the choice to be unemployed or move across the country. So we chose to move across the country away from all of our family support. I'm originally from North Carolina. I grew up in Durham. I went to NC State. People who are local to the Triangle might be familiar with the high school I went to. I went to Jordan High School. When I go shopping at Target, sometimes I see old high school friends. That's super fun. They don't always recognize me. And anyways, so we moved away from all of our family support, all of our friends here, and landed in this huge city where we knew exactly one family. And my friend had also just had her first baby, and and so I spent the last 3 months of my pregnancy snuggling with her baby and learning how to change a diaper. And she had signed up for this program called the Program for Early Parent Support. And she had kind of signed up last minute and said, hey, if I get in, that'll be great. And then she got a spot in a group that was almost full and started. And after her group started, she said, Monica, this is amazing. You have to sign up. Here's my laptop. And I was like, okay, I don't have anything else to do. So I signed up, and after my daughter was born, about 3 weeks later, I showed up to a complete stranger's home and sat down and started trying to nurse my baby as all of these other mothers and their children filtered in and kind of started doing the same thing. And we started introducing ourselves. And, over the next couple of months, we got to know each other, and we realized all of the struggles that we were going through, regardless of where we lived and what kind of jobs we had. So much of that newborn parenting experience is just similar, just because that's the phase that you're in. And so, meanwhile, my friends from high school and college back here in the Triangle were also starting their families and having a really different experience from mine, right? I felt super supported by all of my new friends in this program. And so even though I was far away from family, I felt like I had people that I could call in an emergency, and, someone that I could call when I was upset, people I could hang out with. And my friends here in the Triangle were just isolated, right? Experiencing postpartum depression and not getting help, experiencing colicky babies and driving an hour to get help from their parents. And I thought to myself, hey, if I ever have the opportunity to move back to North Carolina, I have to bring this program with me. So we had clearly I'm here. So we had that chance. And when we moved back to North Carolina, that's when I went about the process of founding the nonprofit and building a board of directors and leading my first couple of groups and training our first couple of volunteers. And it's kind of just grown from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's such an incredible story from the experience of your first day there, where you're having this. I mean, it sounds like you were completely vulnerable and having this major new experience of doing something very personal and being around some people that you had no clue who they were, but then growing into kind of just that support network and those people that have your back. And for those listening, I've also gone through the Triangles Parent Support Group, and that's how I got connected with Monica. And we had an amazing experience, which we may get into, but at this point, it's my normal, right? That normal of having had that experience, having had someone or a group of people to speak to and just kind of talk about the things you're going through and normalize it. And as you're speaking about some of your friends who didn't have that, they're going through all these challenges, depression, struggles with how to handle a baby, figuring out if it's normal, all those things that, has challenged them, and not having that support or having to drive to get that support. It's, again, it's incredible that you were able to take that leap when you came here to bring it and start it and grow it to where it is now. Yeah, with that being said, where is it now? You started with yourself helping and programming, and where is it now? What is the whole shebang for what people can get from you guys?
Yeah, so we started with just one program. We started with the program for early parent support, which is our in Seattle they do it for 12 weeks, and we decided that was kind of long to commit to meet the same time every week. So we do it for 10 weeks, and that program is really our core program. We know that when we are able to get a group of parents together, whether it's on Zoom or in a room, every week, over and over again, the same parents, that the intentional relationships are able to form. It's really hard to form those relationships when you're just dropping in, or it's a play group and you show up when you want to, and the people change all the time and you have to keep introducing yourselves. And frankly, that's exhausting. And so, when you know who you're going to see every week, you're able to really build those deep relationships. So that's the really deep intention behind the newborn PEPS groups. So and then we have kind of gone taking the same curriculum. So we use the program for early parent supports curriculum, and they update it for us, and it's written by all these amazing experts, licensed therapists, social workers, sleep experts, parent coaches. They get together, they write the background information and the questions and the activities, and they've written this rhythm. So in the PEPS program, there's a rhythm to each meeting. So every group starts with just sharing that kind of vulnerable time where they are sharing highs and lows. And then there's an educational moment where we sing songs and play games with babies, and maybe we'll talk about a parenting skill. And then there's that really intentional social break, which is hard to do on Zoom, but is so important, where parents just talk about whatever, their jobs, their hobbies, their favorite sports teams, or, and then the last piece is the topic discussion, which is, is where the facilitator is guiding the group in a conversation about a specific topic related to parenting. Okay, so that's the curriculum. And we have, I think there's over 40 topics. And in 10 weeks, right, you only get to do 10 topics. Mm-hmm. So we have been working all year with the program for early parent support to expand that into a prenatal program, so that we can really get parents to start developing their social networks before the baby comes. And so we're doing 4 topics with parents who are still expecting and waiting for baby to arrive. And then we also realize that there's this gap between when you hear about us and maybe when you're ready to join a group. And so we are now doing drop-in groups. Yes, you have to introduce yourself every week, but it's kind of this stopgap between your prenatal group and your newborn group where you can, just show up on a Wednesday night and vent about whatever has been going on during the week, get some support, talk to a trained volunteer. If you need help finding a therapist, we want to be able to help you find a therapist. And I think my internet is going in and out.
Ever need to vent?
Tell me if you can still hear me.
I can absolutely still hear you. Yeah. I'm being facetious, but I was saying, why would a parent ever need to vent? I mean, what are they venting about? It's joyous, right? No, I'm just kidding. I love that you dropped a little bit about—
I mean, if you have done an internet search for parenting memes, you can see all the reasons why parents vent.
That's right. You mentioned that, you guys are doing Zoom now with coronavirus and everything. Mm-hmm. You're establishing that Zoom presence and being able to have these meetings in a virtual capacities to make sure that you are in compliance to all the social distancing and keep everybody healthy and safe. Prior to coronavirus, you were doing in person at people's homes, meeting, and I'm sure the feels are completely different. The benefits are still there for sure, as I can attest. But tell me what you see going forward in terms of the hopes of growing maybe the virtual aspect, or at some point returning to in person when you're able.
Yeah, so one of the things that's really important to me, even while we're only meeting virtually, is that parents are still living close to each other, because that social connection is so intentional and important. We're still organizing groups based on parents' geographical location, which means that for the time being, we won't be accepting parent applications from outside of the area. But sometimes I get requests for group support and from people who live outside the area. And typically then I'll go and do a Google search, hey, what's in this person's area? And send them the name of a similar nonprofit in the area that they can get connected to. Just that geographical location is really important. So even on Zoom, the people that you're talking to will live within 15 or 20 minutes of you, so that you can, on your own, go and do a park meetup, socially distant, whatever, at your comfort level. So that's really important. And then as we look at what the right timing is to return to doing things in person, there's a lot of factors we have to take into account. One of them is parent safety and their baby's safety. Mm-hmm. And another factor that we are considering is our safety and the safety of family members that they may be caring for. So several of our volunteers are caring for aging family members, and we so value their time and their work with the parents that they're serving that I can't mm-hmm. put them in a risky situation. So we don't really know when we will be doing things in person again. For the time being, we're just focusing on supporting the parents that we're able to via Zoom. And then the other really cool thing that we have going on is the new half of our programming that we have just started launching. And that's our programs that we're delivering in Spanish. So one of the key missing elements in the Spanish-speaking parenting experience here in North Carolina, and really probably across the United States, is social support. Many of them have moved from other countries, and Spanish is still the language that they speak primarily in the home, even if they're bilingual and speak English in public and at school and at work. Finding people that they can relate to culturally and with their language, and who may also understand their preferences, their faiths, the experience of being an immigrant and an expat, having your family live in another country. These are all unique experiences that our Spanish-speaking friends are having, and that research is showing they're not getting enough social support with their new babies. So we also noticed that when we tried to do those groups in person, they were a lot harder for parents to get to. So we're not doing those groups on Zoom either, because a lot of the parents that we surveyed said they didn't have access to a laptop, but they did have access to a phone, right? Almost every family that has moved here from Latin America has a WhatsApp either on their computer or on their phone so they can call family and friends who live internationally. So we're using WhatsApp to deliver the PEPS curriculum in Spanish to these families that have young babies who live in the Triangle area. And that's really cool. It's partially funded by Wake County Smart Start. So we're able to not just deliver the curriculum, but also provide some extra support for basic needs like diapers and groceries. And there's a couple of books that we're able to deliver to those families because of the grant funding. And that's really exciting too.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Not only that you are providing a medium for these families and the support for them, but also your awareness and ability to kind of get it to them in a way that's going to be helpful, right? We can't do it in person. We can't do it with laptop. What is the best way to do it, and getting it out there for them so that they can digest it and experience it and use it. And that's very exciting, and congratulations for that. And I hope all the best for that program. That's exciting. Yeah. So tell me, obviously the importance of sharing during your programming is important, just to get things off your chest, to share similar experiences, to normalize or affirm things that are happening. Tell us a little bit about some of the topics that you guys tend to try and help teach about, and how important that is for them.
Yeah. So in the PEPS curriculum, there's 5 topics that every group does. And then there's the other 5 weeks, they get to choose whatever topic is most important to them that week. So we always start with what I believe are really foundational topics to the parenting experience. And one is the first one that we do, and this is during the same week that we talk about how we will treat each other respectfully and not stare at our phones during the meeting, those kinds of rules. And then we have parents share their baby's arrival story. And that's always a really sweet week because, not everyone's memories are positive, but oftentimes when they have the opportunity to share their experience in a setting where they know that they're safe and they won't be judged, and whatever happens will be received, and however they have to tell their story, it will just be received openly by the group. And so that can be a really healing process for parents to just process their experience. We serve a lot of parents who've dealt with infertility, and so sometimes the story they want to share isn't even about baby's birth. Sometimes it's the story of the struggle that they went through to conceive. Sometimes there's a traumatic birth story that a parent needs to share that they may need some additional help with, and so we always send out extra resources after the meetings. And so that during that meeting, I always send out helpful links to how to process your birth story, and some suggestions for therapy if people need to talk with a professional more about the topic. So the first one is baby's arrival story. Super sweet. The second one that we talk about is sleep. Okay, sleep is so important that I also bring this up during the prenatal groups that we're doing now. A lot of parents go into their journey not really realizing how much sleep they will lose. And so they just think, oh, the baby's going to come and then somehow it's going to get fed and we're all going to be happy, right? Sometimes.
Surprise!
So we talk about, was your sleep experience before baby arrived? How many hours of sleep do you need? How can you work together with your partner, if you have one, to make sure you get enough sleep? What are baby's sleep rhythms, and are you able to watch for baby's cues to be able to figure out when baby is tired so you don't miss that sweet window of opportunity that I like to call it that. And so we talk about sleep. The next topic we talk about is feeding. Feeding can also be one of those really guilt-ridden topics that can be really controversial. Some people believe really strongly that breastfeeding is best, and you should always work as hard as possible to breastfeed for as long as possible. But that doesn't work for everyone. Some people need to, for medical reasons or personal reasons, formula feed their baby. And we believe that that's also a great choice, and that you, Bill, as a parent, are an expert on yourself and on your child and what your family needs. And so we want to support you through that process. And so when we talk about feeding, we talk about all the different kinds of feeding. We talk about exclusively pumping, nursing, chest feeding, SNS, bottle feeding, formula. What does your pediatrician say? And sometimes if the babies are a little bit older when the group starts, we'll even get into things like starting solid foods. What's the nutritious way? Does it have to be organic? Can I make my own? Parents have lots of questions, and it's really fun to watch them just share information back and forth during that topic. So arrival stories, sleep, feeding. The fourth topic we talk about is early learning and development. And this is another one where parents sometimes hold a lot of anxiety about, well, am I doing enough for my child? Am I messing them up, right? A lot of moms will go around, am I messing up my child? I'm not good enough. The truth is that, especially in that newborn era, connection with your baby is all you need. And so when we talk about development, we really talk about the attachment connection that parents can make with their newborn just by watching them, observing with them, interacting face to face. And then we also, let parents share their anxieties about developmental stages, if they have any, or their excitement about what's coming next. I'm so excited for my baby to crawl. It's going to be so much fun. Those kinds of things. And then we also talk about what it feels like to be your child's first teacher. And really to take their education in your own hands. And this is part of the process of empowering parents to believe that they are the experts on their children, and to not hand over their child's education to someone else. That even if your child is in daycare full-time, even if your child is in public school full-time, that you are still the guiding force behind their education as their parent. And so I really like doing that topic, clearly, as an educator. That one really keeps me going.
Yeah.
And then the last of the 5 topics, I know I'm going on and on. I could
You're good.
seriously talk for hours on these. The last of the 5 topics is also really important, and that's when we talk about emotional challenges, and we discuss and do a little education on perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. And that one hits really close to home for me because I struggled with postpartum anxiety after all 3 of my kids. And so it's really important to me for parents to know what the risk factors are, not just for themselves, but also so that they can help to advocate for friends that they may have, neighbors, colleagues, so that the whole community can become more educated about the very serious emotional challenges that come along with being a parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Those are all very helpful topics in my experience. And, definitely all the way, as you're mentioning, each person has different individual experience, whether it's the feeding, the development, and then as well as the emotional challenges. And that's why what's so great about the program, and it's hard to often tell some people sometimes that, you mentioned that you make very deep relationships with the people that you're going through this with. And you establish that through some of these topics, feeling comfortable enough to communicate these things, as well as, have conversations about them. And it builds a bond and a trust between you and your partners, that that kind of is different from a lot of other ones, because you don't necessarily always talk about those things with other people, and you don't necessarily talk about those things and not receive judgment or another person's view or recommendation on it. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, it was actually one of the moms in the group that I did with my firstborn who listened to me talking about my feelings, and said, "Hey, what you're talking about doesn't sound like it. It sounds like something might be a little bit off." And she said, "I'm experiencing postpartum depression, and one of the things that I'm doing to help myself with that is going swimming. I heard you were a swimmer. Would you like to come swim with me?"
Yeah,
And so this new friend of mine just invited me into her world of support, and we
right.
started swimming together, which was really helpful. And that was one of the ways that I battled my postpartum anxiety after my first child.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. That's so, again, like you said, the relationship is so deep. Um, and even, again, even kind of transitioning from this, but keeping with the trust aspect, is you get to understand who these people are in your network, and how they view parenting, and you gain um, again, a trust. I keep coming back to it, and I've had people tell me, who have gone through your program, and they tell me, I would trust my child being with that person if anything ever were to happen. If anything were to ever happen with us, I would have them as an emergency person for them. And that's just, again, that amount of trust is not easy to gain. So it's a wonderful thing that you're able to help people gain that amount of trust with people.
Yeah. That's actually one of the outcomes that we measure when we do our pre and post surveys. And when we collect that data from parents, we ask them beforehand. The question is, do you have someone that you could call in an emergency? And they either agree or disagree. And then after the program, we ask them the same question. And that not only is the average across the board that they improve in their agreement on that question, but on that question particularly, it's like everyone moves, and we're able to move people almost a full point, which is 20% on a 5-point
Yeah,
scale.
that's amazing.
So yeah, so
Amazing.
that's really, really intentional. And I actually don't think that there are a lot of other organizations that have such an intentional devotion to developing those kinds of trusted relationships between the parents in their group.
That's so powerful. It's so powerful. Uh, I guess that would lead me into another question: is what do you feel like makes you guys different from other, whether it's a parent support group or just any other services in the area for parents?
Yeah, I think we've just been talking about it. It's the relationships. Every time I talk with anyone in my network, right? If it's a doula or a parent educator or a lactation consultant, I'm always asking them, because I want to know, hey, in your classes, how are you keeping your parents connected to each other after your class is over?
Mhm.
And by and large, with very few exceptions, their answer is, "Oh, we don't do that. If they stick together, that's on their own."
Mm.
And I think one of the things about the modern society that we live in is that it's just not easy to form those deep relationships in the same way that maybe even our parents' generation had opportunities to do that with colleagues, neighbors, friends at your place of worship or at school. Um, the digital kind of realm and social media lends itself to these really shallow connections that are just based on likes and comments, and the kinds of questions that build trust and the amount of time that it takes to build trust is significant. So I really do think that the kind of relationships that we're able to build, and not just between clients, but also between the organization and our clients.
Mhm.
the families that we serve, and particularly the families in the groups that I lead. I mean, I always tell them, hey, this is your group, you know, I'm going to step back, you know, after it's over. But we've shared so much. So we often keep in contact, and I love seeing pictures of their babies grow. You know, the first TAPS babies are turning 5 this fall. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I'm like, I remember you when you were like,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What are some things that have been challenging, or what are some things that you guys are trying to do now to help that goal with the virtual aspect of everything?
Yeah, so with the virtual aspect, one of the things that we're doing is keeping groups smaller. We used to have a maximum number of people in a group, as up to 10 families. So with a couples group, you can imagine that 20 voices trying to share on a Zoom meeting is really difficult. So we've reduced that number to 6 couples, but most of our groups are more like 3 to 4 couples, or, you know, up to like 5 moms, so that they're really intimate. So you feel safe sharing. That's really important. And then we also know, based on the research, that having a wide social network is also important, right? So we want to go deep and we want to go wide. So we're taking the groups that we're leading through the curriculum, and we're kind of cross-socializing them intentionally. So we'll pick a time that people in 2 different groups that are located near each other are able to meet, and their facilitators will arrange a group Zoom. Totally social, there's no structure, it's just fun. Or they've been sometimes going and meeting at parks, and you know, sitting on towels or blankets in their groups and introducing themselves to each other, so that they the reason that this works is that they've been through the same program, and they can have a mutual understanding of respect and non-judgment between the groups. So we've seen a lot of really powerful interactions happening that way, so that we're able to both, you know, wide social network and deep relationships.
Yeah, this isn't the first time you've mentioned that respect, and I'd love to know, you know, besides in the first group meeting of, you know, kind of laying down ground rules, how do you foster that respect among these peers, and how have you experienced it where there's been disrespect in the past?
Yeah, you know, I think it just all starts with how we describe the program from the beginning. So people who sign up hopefully have read the description on our website, or have heard someone tell them about it. And so there's an expectation already that this is a safe place to share and be who you are, without any kind of judgment. Mm-hmm. We also do some really specific activities to help foster that level of respect and understanding. One of them we do during the first meeting, and it's called our Unique Things About You activity, where we encourage parents to describe things about themselves that make them who they really are. And this is really hard for people, because we don't often think about what elements of ourselves make us who we are. Mm-hmm. You know, what are you happy about, that, you know, about who you are? You know, we think about things we do, about places we've lived, but this question helps people kind of get to the core of their identity, mm-hmm. which is a really important piece of your parenting. Yeah. And so when I lead a group, I'll do that exercise in a couple of the sessions, so that the parents have an opportunity to share several things about themselves. And often as they're doing that, as they're sharing things that they like to do and places they like to go, they'll find these commonalities across the room or across the Zoom, where I had one group where several of the members all played instruments. And so the jokes every week that would come up during conversation were all music related, because they knew that everyone would get the joke because they were all musicians.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to find commonalities there. And I think that when parents are able to see each other as more than just a name and a picture, when they see deep into each other's soul, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's easier to be respectful of differing opinions because you've already viewed the other person as human.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you disagree on feeding or parenting style or discipline or sleep arrangements or whatever it is that we might disagree on, once we view each other as human, there's kind of an automatic level of respect.
Yeah, that's so important, and unfortunately somewhat lacking in our general society at this time. But what would you say are some of the things that are your favorite things about helping parents?
Oh man, there's so many.
Let's go with 3.
What are some of my favorite things? I love seeing the physical evidence of confidence in a parent. So I'm thinking about a particular meeting that I was subbing for a volunteer for a couple of years ago, and I walked into the house, and one of the moms was really just tight. I mean, just a little bit stiff and not really relaxed as she was holding her baby, and passed her baby back and forth to her partner several times, and baby was fussy, and we were talking about sleep that night, and so we started sharing stories about sleep, after highs and lows and all of that, and I watched her kind of like go from stiff and straight just to kind of like slowly melting with her baby into the couch. And it was like her whole body relaxed as she realized that the experience she was going through was normal, that she was not alone, and that there were some really easy things that she could try that might improve her baby's sleep, which was one of the challenges she was facing. So that physical evidence of confidence is just so cool to watch in the moment. It doesn't happen every time, but typically over the 10 weeks, I'll see parents just move from being really nervous and into a space of real confidence and empowerment.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. What are some things about, we could go with parenting or supporting parents and providing support, that you feel like is not well known enough? Some things that you feel like, you feel like people should know this, but they don't. You mentioned.
I mean, do you have something on your mind? Because I know that you've worked with a lot of our parents.
Yeah, no. In terms of support, I think the biggest thing we discussed earlier is, and you just touched on it just now, is normalization. Normalizing the feeding struggles, normalizing and providing tips, like you said, feeding, sleeping ideas, development, affirming that the things that are happening are normal and that things move at different paces for people. Emotional challenges that people have is a thing that happens, and that it's something that you can have help with. I think those are the things that, and then also thinking back about parenting, early parenting, is you go through these courses when you go to become a new parent, and they teach you all the science stuff and all, what to expect during delivery. And then you get into the first month or so, and it's like, why didn't anybody tell us any of this?
Yeah.
They didn't tell us any of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, anywhere from how, for those who, speaking to many people, troubles with breastfeeding, troubles with, again, yeah, like people having depression, people, just what that does. And then, I mean, also empowering people, because it is incredible how much you can do without sleep. You mentioned that, you're trying to let the prenatal groups know about that. And that's so important. And it's funny because I had coworkers who all said, hey man, get your sleep now, enjoy it now. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll be fine. And as soon as it happened, I realized that now I say to my friends, I say, hey man, enjoy your sleep now. It's incredible what you're going to be able to do, but get it now. So I guess those are a few things that I feel like people should know about parenting and the ability of your program to provide support for.
Yeah, so the things that you're talking about there, that like stuff in the first month that nobody tells you about, we see that, right? I experienced that. I was like texting my friends, nobody told me this. What color is the poop supposed to be?
That's right. Or
And
the fact that she's not having poop. Yeah, our daughter didn't poop for like 3 days straight, and then we went to the doctor, and they're like, "Oh, that's normal." I was like, "What? That's not what they said in the class."
yeah, right. So we're trying to talk about some of those things during our very first meeting in the prenatal series. So the topic we're covering there is preparing for baby's arrival. And so there we're talking about, like, have you and your partner made a plan for getting sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Have you made a plan for who's going to walk the dog?
Mm-hmm.
Have you made a plan for how you're going to transition out of work and back into work? How are you going to make sure that you have good rapport with your coworkers when you go back? Childcare is a topic that we're covering during the prenatal group. Not like you should pick a childcare provider, but here are some questions you might want to think about asking a childcare provider. What are your values around parenting, so you can make sure that your values match with your childcare provider? I think that's something that sometimes gets left out, that you have very real parenting values. Even before the child is born, you have ideas about what you want their experience to be like. And those are really important to respect. And finding a childcare provider that lines up with your values may not be as easy as some parents think about. So those are just a couple of the topics. Another thing that people don't all realize is how much conflict having a baby can create between you and your partner. I'm going to go grab a book. Just a second. I'll be right back. Does this look familiar?
Yeah. 0 to 5.
So the whole first section of this, I don't know if I showed you this during your group. There's this really great page in here on, and then this graph is my favorite. This graph shows, and I guess this is my like unofficial plug for this book. I don't make any money off of that, but this is really great for new parents.
Yeah, so
Can
it's
you see the
0
graph?
to 5. And what does the graph depict? If you wouldn't mind explaining.
So this graph shows marital satisfaction across the ages of a child's life. So there are 4 studies here, and so married without children has really high, typically, levels of satisfaction. And then it starts this like downward
plummet.
And then there's some happy moments, and then the teenage years, and then satisfaction goes up. Gotcha. So if parents can expect conflict and prepare for it, and really have a plan for how am I going to deal with this conflict with my partner, that can really help the
Yeah.
the level of satisfaction that you feel in your marriage, and potentially even prevent conflicts from becoming so great that they're insurmountable.
Right. Save a marriage. Right. Absolutely. I mean, just like you said, just planning for it, understanding it's normal. Again, there's the word normal. That these dips and these struggles happen
Mhm.
to a lot of people. Understanding that, and then if you have a plan, how much ahead you probably are of all those people. Because if you have a plan of, something to talk about, something to say, something to do that lets your spouse understand that whether you're not happy, satisfied, feeling loved, comfortable, all of those things. If you have a plan, yeah, absolutely, that can be very, very important. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great that you incorporate that into the prenatal stuff. That's wonderful. Um, just to finish up, that's one book. Usually I ask about 3 books that people enjoy recommending or gifting. That was 0 to 5. What are 2 other books that you would recommend? Not necessarily, doesn't have to be about parenting, support. Could just be anything that you really enjoy or think is great on a human level, entertainment level. What other books do you enjoy recommending or gifting?
Oh man. I give a lot of books as gifts, but mostly to my kids' friends. Um, so I'm trying to think about the books that I recommend for adults.
Sure.
Okay, my very favorite book right now is, and I'm a sci-fi fantasy reader, so that's my favorite genre. And so I am really enjoying, and I've read it a couple of times. It's called The Night Circus. And that it's long, but so I mean, really not for the first year of parenting. Don't try to read this.
Okay. All right. All right. Any others? Another
I mean,
one?
unless it's your entertainment at night while you're feeding.
Right. Sure. Any others that you'd recommend or
Let's
that
see.
you feel like are a gift?
Yes, I'm looking at my shelves down here. Hold on.
There you go.
This is Raising a Secure Child. Is by the experts who created the Circle of Security parenting program, which is a theory about how attachment forms between child and caregiver, and is I think just a real gift to any parent.
Yeah.
Because of how important the early emotional attachments are to a child's long-term health and life outcomes. You know, did you know that a baby can't grow? Like literally will not put on weight no matter how much you feed it if it's not being held regularly?
I did. I actually did know that, but that is I don't keep that at the front of my brain. But yes, that's an incredible, incredible, sad thing, actually. But yeah.
And how just the loving connection between parent or caregiver and the child just not only helps them to grow physically better, helps them to grow with more resilience of their emotions. They can problem solve better. They can make friends better. They read better. They have better grades in school when parents are able to establish, and I'm not talking about the attachment parenting where like they're on you all the time, but it's this responsive understanding of how, as a parent, you are your child's secure base, and they're going to go out into the world. This is the circle. They're going to go out into the world. They're going to experience some things, and then they're going to come back to you. And they might come back to you with a problem. They might come back to you with an experience they want to share, but that they're always going to come back to you. They're always going to go out and explore, experience, and come back. And so that's what this book is all about. That's also what Circle of Security Parenting, the program, is all about, which is hopefully something that we are going to be able to launch in the future. And it depends on a lot of things. And if we're not able to launch it, I can recommend a couple of other organizations in the Triangle that are offering it right now. So that's a really wonderful program for parents looking for more information about their child's emotional development and attachment.
That's awesome. That's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. We will, two more things we'll end with. One, if you were to have a billboard on the edge of a very busy highway where thousands of people will see it every day, what would the message that you put on it be?
Take your friend dinner tonight. They need to know they're loved.
That's great. I love it. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Monica. If people want to reach out to you with parenting questions, questions about anything we talked about today, questions about TAPS programs, what is the best way to reach you?
Yeah, they can reach out via email. My email address is monica@tapsnc.org. And that's the best way to reach me. I check my email probably more than I should. They can also reach out to us with questions. There's a form on our website. The website is www.tapsnc.org. That's tapsnc.org. And they can reach out. They can sign up for our newsletter there. They can sign up for a program. They can get more information. If maybe you are listening to this and you are past the new parent age, there's also opportunities to get involved as a volunteer or as a donor. And all of those roles are important to the work that we do. We really could not do what we do without our donors and volunteers.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And, I should have asked you this earlier. Is there anything that you'd like to kind of tell people about that's coming up in the new year, at the end of this year, 2020, or at the beginning of 2021? Is there any sort of event that they can help support Triangle Area Parent Support Group, TAPS, or join and be a part of it? Is there anything like that coming up?
Yeah, so we always have a fundraiser, and right now we are in the middle of that. People can go online and donate toward the fundraiser anytime they want. And then in the new year, there will also be a fun spring, maybe even in-person family event. And if we're not able to do it in person, we will have some kind of spring TAPS event that people can get involved with. So sign up for the newsletter so that you can be first to find out about upcoming events. And then also, prenatal group starts every month. So sign up now if you're pregnant. Newborn groups start about every other month. So check the website frequently for a group that fits you, and drop in anytime. We would love to see you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time and energy. I appreciate your willingness to kind of talk through some of the things that you guys are providing to so many parents, and all the help you provide. I appreciated all your help when we went through the program, and I hope that this helps at least one person find you guys. Thank you everyone for listening, and for now, be well and thrive.